with Esther McVeigh and Tonya Buxton.
We are indeed.
So coming up on the show this morning, we're finding out if you've got buyer's remorse after splashing out on Black Friday.
Can the 5-2 drink diet really stop you from overindulging this Christmas?
And just how worried should you be with another new COVID variant hitting the headlines?
All that and so much more coming up between now and midday. But first, the news with Bethany.
Good morning. These are your headlines at 10 o'clock. Variant manufacturers are already tweaking the COVID jabs amid concerns the new variant, Omicron, could be resistant. Pfizer expects to be able to produce a tailor-made jab in 100 days, and Novavax says it will have a vaccine ready to test in the next few weeks. Overnight, the US joined a growing list of countries imposing restrictions on travel from South Africa, where the variant was first detected. It follows the World Health Organization's warning that early evidence suggests it has increased risk of reinfection. The strain has also been found in Hong Kong, Israel and Belgium.
Once you detect it, it's probably too late to stop it completely from getting into the country, but delaying more people bringing in this variant to compound the current problem we have with Delta virus is something that's really important. We react quickly. We know from previous experience that dithering and delaying in doing things and just paying attention to what virus is coming from where has landed us in trouble in the past. So just being a bit more cautious and preempting a problem is quite important.
A man has died in Cumbria after being struck by a tree during a night of 100-mile-an-hour winds as Storm Arwen hit the nation. It's the second death caused by the storm. A man was also killed in Northern Ireland, where a tree fell on his car yesterday. Northern Power Grids say more than 55,000 customers have experienced a power cut in the north of England. Amber and yellow weather warnings remain in place. The Met Office are advising people to only travel if absolutely necessary. Former England captain Michael Vaughan has said he's sorry for the hurt his former teammate Azim Rafiq has experienced. Earlier this month, Rafiq told MPs of his inhumane and racist treatment, that's as he says it, at Yorkshire. Vaughan was among a number of figures implicated in the case, but he denies the claims. He says hopefully the club will never again put themselves in a position of denial that they treated a player so badly. Tributes have poured in for the American composer and songwriter Stephen Sondheim, who's died aged 91. Known for musicals including Sweeney Todd and West Side Story, Mr. Sondheim is understood to have died at his home in Connecticut. Lyricist Sir Tim Rice described him as a master musical man. Andrew Lloyd Webber added he was a musical theatre giant. And director Steven Spielberg says he was a gigantic figure in American culture. 4 teenage boys aged between 13 and 15 have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a 12-year-old girl was stabbed to death. Ava White was with friends in Liverpool city centre to watch the Christmas lights switch on when she was assaulted. Merseyside police say they aren't looking for anyone else in connection with her death.
Officers were called at 8:39 p.m. to a report of an assault, and on arrival they found that Ava was already collapsed on the ground and there was a member of the public given first aid. Paramedics attended and took Ava to Alder Hey Children's Hospital, but very sadly she died shortly afterwards despite medical intervention.
Hundreds of migrants from Central America and Haiti have formed a new caravan in southern Mexico and are walking north towards the United States border. Around 1,000 people, many carrying children, began walking from a city bordering Guatemala and are planning to join another group and keep marching north. The migrants say their patience has run out over promised humanitarian visas that would allow them to work and reside in Mexico. And the Royal Mail has announced the regional winners of a competition for young people to design stamps based on heroes of the pandemic. Children aged 4 to 14 were asked to nominate their heroes and produce a design for an official Royal Mail stamp. These designs celebrate a range of people, including NHS workers, parents and teachers. The Prince of Wales will select the final 8 designs. That's your latest headlines. I'll have more in half an hour.
Hello and good morning. So you may have seen the story this week in the newspapers about the MP Stella Creasy, who was told she could no longer bring her baby into the chamber of the House of Commons.
Stella was sent a letter telling her the infant will no longer be welcome, although there will now be a review into the parliamentary rules.
So let's see what Commons Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle had to say on this matter.
Order. Before we start today's business, I want to say something about the presence of babies and very young children in the chamber and the parallel chamber, Westminster Hall. It's extremely important that parents of babies and young children are able to participate fully in the work of this House. That is why, to be given one example, we have a nursery. The advice given yesterday to the Honourable Member for Walthamstow on the authority of the Chairman of Ways and Means, of which I was not aware of until last night, correctly reflects the current rules. However, rules have to be seen in context and they change with the times. This House has to be able to function professionally and without disturbance. However, sometimes there may be occasions when the Chair can exercise discretion, assuming to the business is not to be disturbed. I accept there are differing views on this matter. Indeed, I've been contacted by honourable members who have babies with a range of views. There are also likely to be some consequential matters. Therefore, I've asked the Chair of the Procedure Committee if she and her committee look into this matter and bring forward recommendations which will ultimately be for the House to take a view on. Thank you. I'm taking no points of order.
So I'm quite conflicted on this one because I see it from both sides. So having one of the series that I did, one that I was my dream series was Migrant Kitchen on the Discovery Channel, and I'd been trying to get it off the ground for 7 years. Of course, I finally get it off the ground when I'm pregnant with number 3, and it wasn't an option for me not to do it. So I ended up being on location with a 10-week-old baby, and it was very, very hard. I'm not entirely sure it was the best for the baby, and I think if the sound guy or the sound girl had been pregnant, she wouldn't have been able to do what I did. So it is a conflict. I understand that sometimes there's certain jobs that you do need to be able to take baby in, but I think you're at a privileged position if you are the person that can take the baby in. So is it fair across the board to other women who don't have that luxury? That's the thing.
OK, well, I think Lindsay Hoyle there was very fair. You know, women have been in the House of Commons now for just over 100 years. But I think you need to understand as well a little bit about the job. There's two jobs, there's two roles, really, as an MP. You've got your work in the constituency, which you can delegate to others. You will get some extra money for staffing so people can do that job. But there's the bit in the House of Commons that really only you can do. You are the elected representative that nobody else could do. You couldn't just say, whilst I'm on maternity, can somebody come in and do this job? So this is the sort of point she's raising. The bit in the Commons that I can't stand up and speak and do it, or she's saying, I did my baby there. This is the bit she's sort of talking about. But I think you are quite right in that, you know, does the House of Commons have support for women with babies? Yes, it does. It's got a nursery there.
It's got a creche there.
Yes, it's got support there. It's got various other things. But I think this is what she's talking about. I don't feel I can do my job properly. I can't delegate this. Her voting, she can delegate. She can give that to somebody else to do by proxy. But you're quite right. There are lots of other people, you know, who I know who might be working in retail, in hospitality, in various other jobs, that they could not have their baby with me. And so you can't have a very, I don't know whether it would be overly supportive or different working conditions. And this might be a very good child. Could you imagine one that was screaming or unhappy in the chamber?
There is also a difference in the ages. So, you know, I know that when you've got a 3-month-old, on the whole, if you're lucky, you know, you can do whatever you want. You strap them to you, you feed them, you change them, they're fine, it's not difficult. But then that really does change as they get older, you know, 3, 4, once they start crawling and once they're moving about. So if the chamber does decide to change the rules, you know, they've got to take that into account as well, because there's a big difference between a 3-month-old and a 6-month-old. So when you're saying babies, you're thinking, well, what's the age of that baby and how can you do it? And if there is a creche there, she could leave the baby in the creche while she goes to vote and come back again, right?
And I think that's why I think Lindsay Hoyle, who's the Speaker, who officiates the chamber, is saying, well, let's talk about this. And as you said, lots of people have come forward, whether it was, you know, men and women, you know, women with children or not, are saying, actually, is it the place? You know, there'll be other places that, you know, she could have the baby maybe in the office, she could have the baby in a creche, she could have... Is the chamber the place, which is the big debating chamber?
What was quite surprising is that he said that he was lobbied by many MPs, but mainly women MPs, not to change rules, which was, I found that quite surprising, actually.
I think also people need to know what the rules in the chamber are strict anyway. You couldn't hold up a sign to campaign about something. You're not meant to wear a T-shirt that advertises something. So anything that is distracting, taking away from the debate, seen as a form of advertising, whatever, you cannot do. The one thing I will say, and one thing that Stella is excellent about, really like bringing things to the forefront, bringing campaigns to the forefront. And listen, she's certainly done that here, hasn't she? She's got her picture in every photo. Now, I don't know what our GB viewers think of that. Should we have babies in the chamber? Would they be distracting? Could they be crying? Is it good for them? Is it good for the mum? Is it good for the whole of society? You can email us gbviews@gbnews.uk. Give us your views on that.
Yeah. It's the time of year when the opportunity for a tipple is all too tempting. Christmas parties, family gatherings, and the excuse to pop a bottle open or two can be a real issue if you're struggling with a drink problem.
The broadcaster Jenny Murray admits this week she developed an alcohol problem during lockdown, but was struggling to give up drink altogether.
So she's adapted the 5-2 diet, but instead of restricting her calorie intake, Murray cuts out alcohol completely for 5 days a week, but allows herself a few drinks on the other 2.
But is that a realistic strategy for cutting down your alcohol intake if you've got a drink problem? Joining us in the studio is the psychologist and writer, Amanda Hills. So, Amanda, this 5-2 diet, I know we've heard it before with regard to food, but 5-2 for alcohol?
Well, I read Jenny's article very carefully, and I think she made a very important point. Actually, she discovered that she actually isn't an alcoholic because she was able to do that. So I just want to say from the beginning that, you know, if somebody had a real problem with drinking, it wouldn't work for them at all. For somebody who is trying to cut down, then yes, it seems like a good plan. But it's not always easy to do, as Jenny's diary clearly showed.
I know that I may have acted like an alcoholic during lockdown because it became, you know, during the first one when it was summery, it was, oh, let's open another bottle of rosé.
Yeah.
And in the winter when it was cold, you think, oh, I just want a glass of red wine to cheer me up. And it was happening in my house every day, every day.
Yeah.
To the point, and it wasn't my normal pattern of drinking.
No.
But then, when we started to go back into normal life, I found that I was craving alcohol. So what Jenny has done would have suited me perfectly.
Exactly.
I'm not an alcoholic,
No.
but I did get into some bad habits.
Yes, and it is a habit. For most people, if we put somebody who's got an alcohol issue to one side for a moment, somebody who is an alcoholic, we need to sort of name it, I guess. For people whose drinking increased during lockdown, and a lot of that was loneliness as well, because, you know, as humans, we are actually designed to be with other people, aren't we?
Absolutely.
So, you know, it was very difficult for people not seeing their families, not seeing their friends. And of course, you've got to have some kind of reward, haven't you, in life? You know, that's how we operate.
And I think Jenny said there, didn't she? She spent most of the time in London.
On her own.
Her husband was somewhere else.
Exactly.
But I think, as Tonya said there, you know, you weren't alone with that. Most people, right across the country, their drink intake increased significantly. For some people, it was like a demarcation between work and actually now being off work.
Absolutely.
People would also say I wasn't driving or going out or anything like that, so I could just sit at home, and then all of a sudden you had a few more drinks because you weren't thinking about either paying for a taxi or, you know, the inability to drive home. So I think there were lots of reasons that people start to consume more alcohol over lockdown. So how would everybody go about it? Jenny sort of hit upon this typical journalist, you know, 5-2 diet, and she's looked at that. She also had a diary, didn't she?
Yes.
Now, I bet you, whilst you've said, oh, I definitely did drink more, and I know that I did drink more, but I think if you'd kept a diary, you'd have seen how to... I mean, I say to people, keep the bottles. All of a sudden, you might have only had a bottle every week. All of a sudden, there's all clinking and chinking as you go into the bin.
It's quite frightening.
So what do you say?
What techniques would you give?
And what do you say, first of all, for people to... If they are looking at the rise in that alcohol take, how would they notice the rise?
Right. Well, I think what you said about bottles is quite a big one, because these days we all try and recycle, don't we?
Yeah.
So we sort of put them out, and that can look quite hideous, actually, can't it?
Oh, God, yeah.
And I think it's noticing, and I think you can notice. I mean, Jenny said that, you know, she usually had a glass of wine, but it was going to a bottle. And I think it's when you're looking at, you know, people plunge the bottles or put the top back on or something, and then when you're not doing that anymore because the whole bottle's gone, I think that's when you maybe
But you're in denial, aren't you,
that-
though? Oh, it was only today. It was only because of lockdown summer.
Yeah.
Oh, friends came round.
But it can build up. It's the same way that it is a habit. We are habitual creatures, humans. We really, really are, in every single way, actually. We teach our brain how to do something, and we just carry on that way unless we catch ourselves on. So I think once you have caught yourself on with it, that's the first thing to do. If you don't notice, that's a bit of a slippery slope. But if you've noticed, I quite like Jenny's idea, but I also know people, and I've spoken to quite a lot of people about this over the last 2 years, who've stopped altogether. And they found that difficult socially because people kind of judge them and say, oh, you're not fun anymore. Jenny also talked about that in her article. And then you have to be ready. You shouldn't have to be. You should be able to do exactly what you want, of course. But you then have to be ready with your explanations as to why you're not the fun party person that they thought you were. Yeah. So then it's about kind of coming up with saying things like, a friend of mine is doing a sort of a rowing challenge. And people think, OK, that's sporty.
But you shouldn't have to do it.
You absolutely shouldn't.
I had to say that because I drink not too much. I get tiddly-squiddly too easy on a glass or two. But
Me
Philip
too.
doesn't drink at all. Does your Paul drink?
Yes, yeah,
he
we
does.
do.
OK, Philip
but very moderately, not like me.
But but he doesn't really think why you should have to give an explanation that he doesn't want to drink. He'll say, no, I'm a whatever it is, water, Diet Coke, lemonade, whatever, Fanta.
I know from myself that I've gone up to the bar and said, can I have sparkling water with ice and a slice and make it look like a gin and tonic? Because I just can't be bothered to kind of go into it.
Oh, no. And talking about that ice and slice and a glass of tonic or water, Jenny also said she tried to pretend she was drinking alcohol or not, so sort of tried to treat herself by putting the lemon in this, that, the other, but she said it was no good. I did need the alcohol. Yeah. I had become addicted to more alcohol.
Yeah. But it's not just the alcohol, the effect of the alcohol, it's the taste, isn't it? A lot of people enjoy it. I do.
Yes.
I enjoy the taste of wine, and I've tried the non-alcoholic wine.
Yeah.
Because a friend of mine gave up drinks. So I thought, OK, I'll support and I'll get some non-alcoholic things in. I'm not somebody that's looking for that buzz, actually, because I don't really like it these days because I feel terrible the next day.
Yeah. Same here.
And what about Christmas time as well? Because that's here now. People are going out and buying because you can get them cheaper. 6 bottles, 20 bottles or whatever,
you see, that's
25% off.
I was thinking about this last night, actually, that even going back a generation, my mother couldn't do that because supermarkets didn't sell alcohol, so you had to go to the off-licence.
Yes.
And usually my dad went in the evening to get some things, and it was a big thing, you know, going to get a party 7. Have I made that up?
No, you've got that.
That's how old I am. Yes, so she didn't go and get the drink with the family shopping. But now you go into a supermarket and you've got people's trolleys are full, aren't they, of drink? Aren't they? And not just me.
Yes, no, absolutely. Mine is absolutely. And I kind of try to avoid the wine section, but it's really hard because I think, oh, that's on offer. So, you know, my trolley does cling.
And it's 6 bottles for the price of this and 25% off. Do you know, I think families are I've been thinking about this quite a lot. I think families are more difficult than friends at Christmas because there's this expectation of you being the person you've always been. Mm-hmm. But I do think, on the good side, a lot more people have decided to live a healthy lifestyle, whether that be vegan or giving up drink. It's becoming more acceptable.
Yes.
And in fact, I know a lot of... I've got 3 kids in their 20s, and their generation have gone off drink a bit.
They're more sensible, aren't they?
Yeah, well...
Some might say dull.
Oh, they're not mine, not dull.
But I know from mine, unfortunately, so we're talking about kids now, you know, my girls I don't necessarily think they like the taste of drink in the same way that we do, of a certain age, do like the taste. I mean, try not to facilitate each other in my house, because my husband likes a glass of wine, I like a glass of wine. We're trying to do the 5-2, so just drink it at the weekends. But, you know, if you sit there...
Oh, OK, is it that way round? I thought it was 5 days a week and 2 days.
Yeah, see? But, you know, it's really hard when you've cooked a lovely meal and you know that a wine would complement
exactly.
it. It's that fight as well, so it is constant and unrelenting.
But moving on to families,
Yeah.
and we were also looking at, which has also happened during lockdown, people's moods have changed slightly.
Yeah.
Yes,
anger
very much
levels
so.
have risen.
Very much so.
Being able to be in control of your temper seems to have gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
And we saw in the paper this week, how are people going to be able to get back control of the temper, not be so angry? And this is where the family game was board games. Playing board games,
Yes.
conflict resolution,
Yes.
team play, being able to get on with
Yes.
things. So at Christmas time, even if you can put your alcohol aside, it could be a good time to get the board games out and do
Definitely.
that conflict resolution and get on with one
Yes,
another.
and just to say that alcohol is a depressant, of course.
Yes.
And a lot of people have had mental health issues over lockdown. In fact, I think it's normal that we have, because it wasn't a normal situation to be in.
Absolutely.
But yes, board games are very interesting.
I think things get too heated in my house they get too heated.
Well, especially with the property one.
Yes.
Shall I say it?
Yes.
A monopoly, isn't it? I think they're a very good thing. In the same way that eating around a table is great for families, in my opinion, and, you know, we lost a bit of that, didn't we, over the last 2 years as well? But I'm very big on that in my house. I love everybody around a table. Even if arguments are caused by getting out a game, and Monopoly seemed to be the one that caused the biggest problems in our house anyway, it's a safe way of practising conflict. In the same way that maybe if somebody's 15, 16 and has their first drink at home and gets drunk and is unwell in their own bedroom, that's a safer way of them testing alcohol for the first time, if you see what I mean.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
So I think they're a very good thing, because, yes, they may have a row with their brother, sister, mother, father, granny, whoever, about who's got Mayfair and Park Lane. That was the big row in our place. If somebody wanted that whole stretch and didn't get it, somebody would sulk.
But I think it's saying
It's safe.
no. It's being a winner or a loser.
Yep.
It's being able to say, you can't afford that, therefore you can't have it. I mean, there's lots of games of life within that one board game.
Absolutely.
But at the moment, it's as if, and I don't know if it is all to do with the lockdown, I don't know if it is the immediacy of being online and being able to buy stuff or have it, but we are seeing the levels of anger in society go through the roof.
Yeah.
Attacks on frontline workers, attacks on shop workers. In fact, a little bit later on, we will be talking to the MP, Kieran Mullen, who brought through Harper's Law, what went on there and how we're going to protect frontline workers. But what are we going to do about the anger in society and the conflict?
Well, I think if you're talking about the family and board games again, I do, sorry if this is old-fashioned, but I am quite a straight-talking psychologist. I do think parents or carers need to parent or care.
Yeah.
So, I think what I've seen a lot of is that some parents being too frightened will actually say, that's unacceptable behaviour.
How do you say that nicely? Because I think you're quite right.
You get
sometimes
cross.
parents, but sometimes parents think,
nicely.
but if some parents are having difficulty with that, sometimes they say, oh, it's for the teacher to do it or somebody else
No,
to do it.
they
No,
won't.
it's for you to do it. You're the
absolutely not
parent.
for the teacher
So what
to
would
do
you give for some parents who aren't doing that? What would you say?
So, in giving a game example, if somebody starts kicking off, having a sort of maybe hit their brother, hit their sister or whatever, they need to be removed from that situation and told they're not going to be playing the game if they can't do that. I think there need to be consequences. And the thing with families is that in a healthy family, that is the best way to learn the boundaries and that you need to put in.
And you don't take any nonsense, do you?
No, I mean, Amanda, you're on my type of
I
psychologist.
absolutely do not take any nonsense myself.
I absolutely agree with you. And what surprises me is I've been in family situations where people have said to me, gosh, look at your children, they're so polite. And you think, well,
Didn't happen by accident.
How did you do that? And you look at the other parent and you go, are you joking?
It's actually hard work.
It's very, very hard work.
It
And you
is.
have to keep it on the time,
Yeah.
all the time, even when they're adults.
Yeah.
Oh,
definitely.
I think basic things like politeness lead to everything else. So if you don't accept someone being rude, then everything else will work itself out. Do you agree with that?
I completely 100% agree, because I mean, the lockdown is a good example because people had very different opinions on all sorts of things, didn't they?
Yeah.
Which seemed to cause quite big divisions. within families and
Yes.
within friendship groups,
Yes.
it's been very difficult.
It has.
But I came from a point of view that I was not going to be divided from my fellow humans, because I see us as having more in common than we do not. So I always said to them, look, you've got a different opinion on that than me. I want you to tell me your opinion. I'm going to tell you my opinion, but at no point must we be rude to each other about our opinions, even if you completely disagree. So I come down like a ton of bricks on them if they do that.
And you know what?
It's not acceptable.
That's a lesson for all of us at the moment, isn't it? And that's why we're also talking about free speech and different things.
Exactly.
You've got to listen to everybody's opinion, not all bubble up inside because you weren't allowed to say what you wanted to say.
I don't know who quoted it, I can't remember, but I know somebody said, I may not agree with what you're saying, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that's where I come from. But I think with families, you do have to step up to it and say that's unacceptable behaviour.
Well, thank you this morning for
Thank
being
you
with
so
us,
much.
being straight talking, calling it out for being unacceptable behaviour when you see it.
My
Thank you very much
pleasure.
indeed.
Lovely to meet
Amanda
you.
Hills, thank you very much indeed. Coming up, did you overspend on Black Friday? Have you splashed out on a gizmo that you don't need? Well, we'll be talking all about that after the break. Here's the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Storm Arwen continues to cause some problems, although the storm will be clearing as we go through the day. But bitterly cold out there, some snow in places as well as the very strong winds. The storm system out in the North Sea, but look at the number of isobars across the country. It is very windy, and those winds coming down from the north, bringing the chill and also bringing the wintry weather. So as I said, some snow in places across parts of England, especially central and eastern parts, a mixture of rain, sleet and snow, and still those winds giving some problems through the course of the day, only slowly easing. So we do still have warnings in place. See the Met Office website or the Met Office app for details of those warnings. Many western areas having a bright, fine, sunny day, but everywhere, whether you've got the showers in the east or the sunshine in the west, it's cold. 3, 4, 5 Celsius, add on that wind, and it really, really does feel bitter. Continued threat of icy conditions through this evening as the showers keep going across eastern England. Still a mixture here of rain, sleet and snow. Snow mostly over the hills, but there could be a covering at low levels for a time. Certainly snow showers in northern Scotland. So here also potentially icy as temperatures drop widely down below freezing in towns and cities. Many rural areas well below freezing, especially where we've got snow lying on the ground. So a very cold start to Sunday with a widespread hard frost. Through the day, again, many places dry, fine and sunny, but still some showers across East Anglia up towards North Yorkshire and northern Scotland, where we will continue to see sleet and snow. Rain showers for parts of Pembrokeshire and Cornwall. And again, many, many places dry and bright on Sunday with plenty of sunshine. Still cold, but the winds will be a little lighter tomorrow, so it won't feel quite so bitter. So the storm system is clearing away, but still causing problems. There are still warnings in force. See the Met Office website or app for details of those weather warnings.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Hello, welcome back. I tell you, you've certainly got going this morning when we were talking about babies being in the House of Commons. Is that right or not? Stella Creasy wants to do that. First one, Janet says, babies should never be in the chamber. Every other woman has to manage. Fair point, Janet.
Stephen says, absolutely not. And that's in capital letters. What on earth are we thinking? That it's OK to bring babies' children into Parliament? Day by day, we are losing our credibility as world leaders in government and policymakers. Stephen, I think you're right there, but I don't think it's about the babies. I think it's about a few other people. But anyway.
I've got from Stephen to Steve. And he says, I don't like the world I live in anymore. Babies cannot go into the House of Commons. End of. What if the mother was a deep-sea diver or a football player? Honestly, the world's gone completely mad. Keep all your views coming in. But first, it's time for the news, the latest news headlines with Bethany.
Good morning. These are your latest headlines. COVID vaccines are already being altered amid concerns the new variant Omicron could be resistant. Pfizer say they expect to be able to produce a tailor-made jab in 100 days. Overnight, the US joined a growing list of countries imposing restrictions on travel from South Africa, where the variant was first detected. There are also cases in Hong Kong, Israel and Belgium. 2 men have died after being struck by trees as Storm Arwen brought 100-mile-an-hour winds overnight. One man was killed in Northern Ireland yesterday afternoon, while a second died in Cumbria last night. Amber and yellow weather warnings remain in place for much of the country, and the Met Office are advising people to only travel if absolutely necessary. Former England cricket captain Michael Vaughan has said he's sorry for the hurt his former teammate Azim Rafiq has experienced. Earlier this month, Rafiq described his treatment at Yorkshire as inhumane and racist. Vaughan was among a number of figures implicated in the case, but he denies the claims. And tributes have poured in for the American composer and songwriter Stephen Sondheim, who's died aged 91. Known for musicals including Sweeney Todd and West Side Story, he was described by lyricist Sir Tim Rice as a master musical man. And Andrew Lloyd Webber added he was a musical theatre giant. You're up to date. I'll be back in half an hour.
Are you waking up this morning with buyer's remorse? That nagging feeling you've bought something you didn't really need for a price you couldn't really afford, just because there was a big Black Friday discount.
And was it such a bargain in the first place? That's the thing, isn't it? Research this week showed a lot of the goods marked down on Black Friday sales were available at the same price or even cheaper in the last 6 months.
Yeah, but that hasn't stopped us from splashing the cash. With sales nearly double the level of last year, you might say that's understandable because we were in lockdown, but it's also up on the year which was pre-pandemic back in 2019. So it's like never-ending, huge amounts of cash being spent here. But is it worth it? Here we have now with us, joining us on the sofa today, this morning, our special guest here on a regular basis, Justin Harper.
Good morning.
Johnson, yeah.
So what do you think about this Black Friday? Is it just a big Americanification that's been brought over to us and stuffed down?
It is.
Doesn't work?
It's a complete charade, because it originally came about from the American toy companies, toy shops, always used to complain they never made money until the Friday after Thanksgiving when they went into the black because everyone's buying their Christmas presents. Well, that was the story. No one ever knew it was true or not. But it was an excuse to have a sales campaign. And of course, it just got shipped over here. what normally would happen is actually we have this finite amount we'd be spending. So whether we're spending it now, at Christmas or the Boxing Day sales, you've got the same amount spread over. It's a matter of when you spend it. This year's different, though, because during lockdown, as you were implying, actually we had so much cash because we weren't doing anything else. We didn't go on holiday. We bought lots of stuff from Amazon, which you now realise we don't need. Lots of people with their Peloton bikes now gathering dust somewhere, no doubt.
They become clothes hangers, actually. That's what they do in the bedroom.
I think lots of Keep Fit stuff does that, don't it? It has the excitement of the first couple of weeks or months, and yes,
that was the fit as it ever got after that. So actually, then what happened? We have got extra stuff to spend. But the cheeky thing is, and you were just saying, the price variation, and we used to have control of this with the old Consumer Credit Act back in 1974, where retailers were not allowed to have sudden discounts of a price which they had 6 months before. Now, people seem to have forgotten that now, but retailers are breaching rules, and we have to be good consumers. If that's happening, A, don't do it, B, report them as well. So be very wary. Is it a real discount? The only thing I bought at a real discount yesterday was absolutely vital, some astonishing wine going cheaply. I bought and consumed. That was very good.
But you had knowledge of what that wine was, what the price should be, and were you getting a discount? I think Which last year said 9 out of 10 of those weren't discounts. No. They could have got it cheaper sometime over the year. But it does seem as if us Brits love Black Friday. I was looking at the amounts, sort of 8.5 billion here, but across sort of Europe, Germany 6 billion, whatever, France 5 billion, down to Spain sort of 2 billion. What is it about the Brits then that love to go out and maybe get a deal?
Well, actually what we do love doing, and this is where good retailers, good retailing is entertainment. If they can make it entertaining, people will go out and shop. That's why people like going to things like Westfield. Frankly, it's my idea of hell, but people go there and it's an entertaining form of retailing. Those that actually just merely doing discounted sales, yes, people go there for large size screens and things like that, but how many more of those do you actually need? There does come a stage where there's only so much tech you can put in your house. But because of the lockdown, we've got this extra wave going through. The country is sitting on a lot of cash. But it does mean, of course, you don't have to go out on a Boxing Day sale anymore and stand in a wet queue in Oxford Circus.
But like you said, that's entertainment as well, isn't it? It's something to walk off the Christmas lunch. That's why the Boxing sales. So do you think that will go across into the Boxing Day sales as well? What's happened at Black Friday, which aren't really deals? Do you think that's going to be the same with Boxing Day?
Well, yes. I mean, the whole thing about Boxing Day sales, it was the leftover stuff being got rid of, or the old gear they couldn't ship during the rest of the year. So are they really going to be deals? Hopefully we're going to be some better consumers, and as you say, that's not a real deal, that's not a proper discount. But these retailers need to shift more. So if they start making it real prices and promote the fact this is a proper discount, it has never been this price before, or whatever they want to say it, then they will sell more.
Justin, for industry, does it work for them to know they've definitely got the money in the bank earlier on? With people sort of buying their Christmas presents later and later and later, that race on Christmas Eve. Is there a good business mind behind doing this? And if so, what have they achieved and accomplished?
Right. What the business mind behind this would be, you have an amount which the family is going to spend over the Christmas holiday period. If you can make sure you're going to get your percentage of that amount, whether I get it earlier or later, I don't matter. If I can bank it earlier, then so much the better. Then I've actually got my 5 or 10% of the wallet that I was aiming to try and get. If I'm just going to say, I'm not doing Black Friday and wait till Boxing Day, well, then you're taking a risk because the money's already been spent, and get on Boxing Day, there's nothing for you.
Yeah, and that's what I thought, really. They wanted it in the bank and maybe squeeze other people's money. Maybe say, well, I've spent it there, I won't be eating out as much. So there is a significant thought gone into that. But I see this year, and for many years, some stores won't do Black Friday. They've said, I think TK Maxx said, well, we're 60% cheaper all the time. Yeah. Marks and Spencer's aren't, next on. There's a couple who say we don't get involved. Is that good for them? Is this about their reputation?
Well, I think if they're coming out with a good deal, and M&S have always tried to pride themselves on saying it's a good quality product, it's a quality deal. They don't aim to be the cheapest. As far as they're concerned, what do they need to discount? The problem with M&S, we knew them as a clothes shop that did other things. Now, of course, actually, they're a supermarket that occasionally does clothes.
Exactly.
So it's gone the wrong way round. Because it used to be the whole concept of actually having, you had finance, food and frocks. And it was now it's the food that's taken over, a little bit of finance, frocks, and some household stuff as well. I mean, it was the frocks, they were not so much getting wrong, but they had to compete with very, very sharp people on the high street who were much quicker at getting things through and seemed to be up to the market. And poor old Marks and Spencer just merely selling knickers.
And everybody wanted high street, and it was a quick turnaround, and they weren't. They were more for the family.
Do you think the high street will be there next year with all the big shops shutting? Do you think? Because I think that if I could, I'm always cooking on Christmas Eve, but if I could, I'd like to go to shops and watch and see men with that worried look on their face, frenzied buying something, because that'll be my husband, because, you know, be last minute, he hasn't got anything.
I hope I get to see that expression of frenzied buying for me.
But do you think it'll still be here, or do you think the high street is absolutely dying?
Men are basically lazy. If I don't have to go and have a frantic rush around the shops, I can do it on a computer much better. And that way I can be lazy and apparently buy someone a surprise. But no, it's going to be interesting to see, actually, how the high street changes, because we always look upon the high street as being an ancient tradition. It's not really an ancient tradition. The problem we had, we cloned high streets throughout the country. You could name half a dozen brand names and they will be in every single high street. So today, whether you're in Plymouth or whether you're in Newcastle, it would look roughly the same. What they're now going to have to try and change, a lot of this will depend on business rates as well, see how that changes, if it changes, is actually good councils will try and mix it up, make sure there are more pop-up shops.
Yeah, independent.
More people, yes.
It's an experience, of which is what you went back for before.
Yeah.
It was experience.
Make it entertaining.
But we've got other questions for you as well, because there's so much in the paper, isn't it, about what's going on, finance, and this is a big one, Tonya, you wanted to bring out.
I wanted to know the middle pages here of the Telegraph saying how Beijing's billions are buying up the Commonwealth and everywhere else, for that matter. Should we be worried?
Well, you should indeed be worried. See what's happening. We may have heard the Road and Belt campaign of China actually creating trade routes around the world. Well, this is their way of actually making sure they're buying into markets. Now, good on them. Some fascinating stories. I saw actually in Uganda, when the Chinese were first investing into Uganda, going in to build strategic assets, they didn't go in speaking Swahili, they spoke the local patois. Really clever, very good. The second wave coming in, didn't speak the local patois, were speaking Swahili. Third wave coming in, it's Chinatown, you're not allowed in. And so it's a form of neo-colonialism being developed. There was a very good example, I don't know how well you know Sri Lanka, but in the bottom right-hand corner of Sri Lanka, beautiful place, but not much there, a few elephants wandering around. And the Chinese suggested to Sri Lankans, you need a port here, to which they went, we don't need one. She said, no, you need a port here. Well, I tell you, I will build it for you, and here's some cheap finance. So they built the port, and it's not wildly busy, but it just happens to fit the entire Chinese Navy in the Indian Ocean. How to upset the Indians. The clue's in the name. It's the Indian Ocean, not the Chinese Ocean. And also, the deal was done, so it was cheap money for the first 5 years, and then it started going up. They started not being able to pay the interest, and the ownership of that port is now with the Port of Shanghai.
And Justin, you hit on some issues there that we've been very slow to see happening right around the world. I travelled out to Liberia, saw a similar thing happening there. China had offered, if they need a hospital, we would do it, or again, they put in a train line. And what they've used that train line for, to go to the port, as you said, was to take the rubber out, sort of the natural, sort of indigenous products that they grew there. So some of these people, desperate, took this Chinese help, thinking it would help them, and in the end, it hasn't. Seen the same in Cuba with petrol and the sulphur in the petrol. What other countries wouldn't do, China was prepared to still drill this petrol, but it had a high sulphur content, and this is what we're waking up to. So what do you see that we can do now? Because otherwise we feel we can't do anything.
Well, first of all, there will be a backlash. Like all colonialists, there'll be a reaction against it. We've been quite good. We had a history of that. The Americans had a history of that. Actually, I think we were slightly better at it than the Americans, because they tried to make everything America, which doesn't really work. But the Chinese are already seeing pushback. In the Solomon Islands, we had riots this week against Chinese... It gets into a slightly racial issue there, but certainly against Chinese investment, because it was seen to be going to a particular area. In Uganda, again, example there, have people saying, we're looking for international investment coming in to do certain projects. Can we have anybody at all, but not Chinese? So you are seeing this backlash in terms of actually, we're happy to help you and being involved in this, but do not ending up controlling us by way of actually, you've now got the debt, or you've got the preferred status in terms of the trade. Help us, and we're willing to pay for that, but don't end up controlling us. Like all in forms of investment like this, is a thin line between an investment for a return and investment for control. And that's neo-colonial control.
Justin, Stuart, With us, as always, business expert, talk sense, loving you, being one of our friends on the show. But coming up, we'll be looking behind the scenes to find out just how we should be about the new, or how scared we should be, or worried we should be about this new coronavirus variant. But first, we've got a short break.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back. Got some more of your views here. Do you want to read the first one,
yes,
Tonya?
I will. Here we go. It says, Tracy said, had 2 children, fed by myself, and when I returned to work after maternity leave, they still got fed. I arranged, like many thousands of mothers, childcare for my sons. If she chooses to be a stay-at-home mum, that's fine. Give up your job. I don't know. It's all about balance, not the responsibility of Parliament to look after her child. Oh, there's a lot said there.
These comments are all about the story. Stella Creasy, an MP, wanting to bring her baby into the chamber. Alan says here, the House of Commons is the most important workspace in the country. Surely those present should be completely focused on their work, not distracted by screaming kids. There are enough of them already on the opposition backbenchers. A little bit of a joke there, Alan. Like it.
There we go. Anyway, so, and coming back to Christmas there, Alan says, I'm not particularly religious, but why does Christmas seem to evolve around alcohol? Surely there is more to Christmas than that. Well, I don't know.
So yeah, we love your views. Keep them coming in. But look, different story. Here we are again. Look at all of the front pages. Every single one is sort of full of gloom and doom, laden headlines about COVID and the possibility of more lockdowns.
And it's all thanks to another new coronavirus variant. The government has this week introduced travel bans from several southern African countries following the discovery of the so-called Omicron variant in Botswana. So just how worried should we be?
Well, let's ask our next guest, Dr. Tony Hinton, who joins us in the studio. So, Tony, this is what we're waking up to this morning.
Yes.
And this is, I think, what lots of us, whether it does make us more anxious, more worried. You know, you've got conflicting headlines as well. So on the Express, new COVID variant threatens Christmas. And the one here on the Mail, keep calm and don't let the new COVID variant ruin Christmas. So first of all, what is this new variant?
Well, variants come along from time to time. And actually this one is what's called new, NU, and they've just changed its name. And the previous one, if you think back, was the Delta. Now, between the Delta and this new one, there have in fact been hundreds of thousands of variants. Every day there are thousands of variants. I'm not concerned about this variant. If we look back to the Delta variant, there were exactly the same concerns at the time. Will it spread more easily? Will it infect more? Will it cause more hospitalisations and deaths? And in fact, with each of these variants, what happens in general with viruses and with this COVID virus is that it does spread more easily because it's the mutations that are able to spread more easily that become the dominant one. That's logical. But also with viruses, as they become more easily transmissible, they become less potent, they become less lethal. So if we look back, for instance, at the Delta variant, there were more cases, but for each case, there was less chance of hospitalisation and less chance of death. And almost certainly the case will be the same for this. And even the Chief Medical Officer has already said he's more concerned about the Delta virus, the Delta variant, I should say, than this new variant.
And I think, again, that adds to it. So we've got, as you say, Chris Whitty saying, as you said, I'm more concerned about Delta than this. And then you've also got, at the same time, the World Health Authority saying, you know, it's of concern. You've got other people saying that there are so many mutations within this that we've got to be concerned about it. So how do we, as members of the public, who aren't experts in science, balance up those conflicting viewpoints in the papers?
I'm not saying it shouldn't be a concern for probably the next 2 weeks. That's about how long it will take to work out its transmission rates, its infection rates, and is it more serious or not? And almost certainly it will transmit more easily, but it won't be as serious. If we look at some of the cases already reported, if you just think about it logically, this has already been found in South Africa, Botswana, Hong Kong, Belgium, Germany. Well, how did it get there? It got there by people travelling by plane. People that were had a vaccine passport and were able to get on the flight, presumably had no symptoms, else they wouldn't have travelled. So if you look at the Botswana cases, they had 4 cases. Their 4 cases were all in people that were double jabbed. And there was talk even in the papers the beginning of last week about a very concerning variant that scientists had identified, but it was very difficult to track people with it because they had no symptoms.
So why should we be worried about that if it's got no symptoms?
Well, absolutely. This SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is what it is a member of the family of coronaviruses. There are another 4 that we deal with all the time. Mm-hmm. They come back each winter and they cause a disease that we call the common cold.
Right.
And I would say SARS-CoV-2 now, with our vaccinations for elderly people and at-risk people that has reduced the deaths and hospitalisations, has put SARS-CoV-2 now on a par with the flu. It's a very similar death rate. By next year, it will be on par with a common cold. And we've lived with those other 4 coronaviruses for thousands of years. And this will be a 5th. And it will just go into that pool and it will come round each winter and it will give us colds and coughs.
When you said just before, it is of concern and we won't know for another couple of weeks because that's when we'll have done all of the testing on it. Some people now are calling for, well, you better do something immediately if we don't know for 2 weeks. What would you say to those people who are calling for stricter lockdown straight away?
Well, I think those are the sort of people where a new variant has come along just in the nick of time. On lots of previous occasions, new variants have been used to usher in various regulations, including lockdowns. Now, I had no criticism of the initial lockdown, or almost 2 years ago now, believe it or not, we're looking at, aren't we?
Yep.
Because literally nobody knew, and we just had to see what was going on. But actually, 1 month into that pandemic, you could track back the results and work out when infections started to fall, and you could see that they were falling before the lockdown took place. And look what lockdown has got us. It's got us thousands and thousands of patients that have missed their cancer treatment, for
And what
instance.
about people who are already looking for a new vaccine to deal with this new variant?
Well, obviously the companies are looking for new vaccines because they want to sell more vaccines. But so far, none of these virus variants have escaped the vaccinations.
And I'm asking these questions because, again, in the paper, what you're looking at, should you go to this plan B?
We've already got
should you have more masks? Should everybody be looking at sort of more vaccines? And is this what we should be doing? Should we be really concerned about this, or, as you say, just accept it now as part of life? These changes will happen, these variants will happen. Yes, have your vaccines, whatever, to make sure that you have that break between infection and hospitalisation.
I would say generally the variants are good, not bad, because each variant tends to get more easily transmissible, so more people that are healthy and fit will catch it and get proper full immunity.
A milder dose because they've got the vaccine, but they will get...
Some people even without the vaccine. I would say young people, children, young adults that are fit and healthy, if they catch the COVID, their immunity is 27 times better than from vaccination. Everybody, I'm sure we all here know people that have had 2 doses of the vaccine and have caught COVID.
Absolutely.
And everybody will catch COVID.
Yeah.
What you hope is that those very elderly people, those people at risk, if they catch it, they've had the vaccine. My dad, for instance, when all this started off, my dad's 88, he's watching this programme this morning.
Hi, Dad. Hello.
Hi, Dad. And he's got a pacemaker, he's 88, he's on a few medications, and he asked me about taking the vaccine initially. And I said, look, Dad, you're 88, if you catch this, you could well die from it. There may be some complications from the vaccine, there may be some long-term issues we don't know. You aren't going to have to worry about those, quite frankly. And then he asked me the same about the booster. Now, I'm not taking a booster. I'm double jab, I'm not taking a booster. I don't think I need it. But I advise my dad to take the booster. Yeah. I think it has to be an individual thing.
I know we're going to have to have you...
Definitely not something that young and healthy people need to
No, certainly not children.
OK.
Children, the risk is more from the vaccines.
But what you can't do now is travel abroad if you don't have... I mean, there are lots of things that your life is limited if you don't, but we'll talk about that. But look, we're out of time now, but we will have you back. Coming up in the next hour of the show, we'll find out more about Harper's Law and whether it goes far enough to protect our public services. But first, though, here's the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Storm Arwen continues to cause some problems, although the storm will be clearing as we go through the day. But bitterly cold out there, some snow in places, as well as the very strong winds. The storm system out in the North Sea, but look at the number of isobars across the country. It is very windy, and those winds coming down from the north, bringing the chill and also bringing the wintry weather. So, as I said, some snow in places across parts of England, especially central and eastern parts, a mixture of rain, sleet and snow, and still those winds giving some problems through the course of the day, only slowly easing. So we do still have warnings in place. See the Met Office website or the Met Office app for details of those warnings. Many western areas having a bright, fine, sunny day, but everywhere, whether you've got the showers in the east or the sunshine in the west, it's cold. 3, 4, 5 Celsius, add on that wind, and it really, really does feel bitter. Continued threat of icy conditions through this evening as the showers keep going across eastern England. Still a mixture here of rain, sleet and snow. Snow mostly over the hills, but there could be a covering at low levels for a time. Certainly snow showers in northern Scotland. So here also potentially icy as temperatures drop widely down below freezing in towns and cities. Many rural areas well below freezing, especially where we've got snow lying on the ground. So a very cold start to Sunday with a widespread hard frost. Through the day, again, many places dry, fine and sunny, but still some showers across East Anglia up towards North Yorkshire and northern Scotland, where we will continue to see sleet and snow. Rain showers for parts of Pembrokeshire and Cornwall. And again, many, many places dry and bright on Sunday with plenty of sunshine. Still cold, but the winds will be a little lighter tomorrow, so it won't feel quite so bitter. So the storm system is clearing away, but still causing problems. There are still warnings in force. See the Met Office website or app for details of those weather warnings.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Good morning. It's great to have you with us this Saturday morning. I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Tonya Buxton. Coming up in the second hour of the show, we'll find out if Christmas really has come early.
We'll talk to the MP who's been instrumental in bringing in Harper's Law.
And we've got all your weekend sports and showbiz news. But first, Bethany's here with the news headlines.
Good morning, this is your news at 11 o'clock. COVID vaccines are already being altered amid concerns the new variant Omicron could be resistant. Germany is the second country in Europe to confirm their first suspected case. Pfizer expects to be able to produce a tailor-made jab in 100 days, while Novavax says it will have a vaccine ready to test in the next few weeks. Overnight, the US joined a growing list of countries imposing restrictions on travel from South Africa, where the variant was first detected. The strain has also been found in Hong Kong, Israel and Belgium.
Once you detect it, it's probably too late to stop it completely from getting into the country, but delaying more people bringing in this variant to compound the current problem we have with Delta virus is something that's really important. We react quickly. We know from previous experience that dithering and delaying in doing things and just paying attention to what virus is coming from where has landed us in trouble in the past. So just being a bit more cautious and preempting a problem is quite important.
2 men have died after being struck by trees as Storm Arwen hit the UK with 100-mile-an-hour winds overnight. One man was killed in County Antrim yesterday afternoon, while a second died in Cumbria last night. More than 100,000 homes have experienced a power cut across the UK. Amber and yellow weather warnings remain in place. The Met Office are advising people to only travel if absolutely necessary. Former England captain Michael Vaughan has said he's sorry for the hurt his former teammate Azim Rafiq has experienced. Earlier this month, Rafiq described his treatment at Yorkshire as inhumane and racist. Vaughan was among a number of figures implicated in the case, but he denies the claims. Tributes have poured in for the American composer and songwriter Stephen Sondheim, who's died aged 91. Known for musicals including Sweeney Todd and West Side Story, Mr. Sondheim is understood to have died at his home in Connecticut. Andrew Lloyd Webber added he was a musical theatre giant, and director Steven Spielberg says he was a giant figure in American culture. 4 teenage boys aged between 13 and 15 have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a 12-year-old girl was stabbed to death. Ava White was with friends in Liverpool city centre to watch the Christmas lights switch on when she was assaulted. Merseyside police say they aren't looking for anyone else in connection with her death.
Officers were called at 8:39 p.m. to a report of an assault, and on arrival they found that Ava was already collapsed on the ground and there was a member of the public giving first aid. Paramedics attended and took Ava to Alder Hey Children's Hospital, but very sadly she died shortly afterwards despite medical intervention.
Hundreds of migrants from Central America and Haiti have formed a new caravan in southern Mexico and are walking north towards the United States border. Around 1,000 people, many carrying children, began walking from a city bordering Guatemala and are planning to join another group and keep marching north. The migrants say their patience has run out over promised humanitarian visas that would allow them to work and reside in Mexico. And Royal Mail has announced the regional winners of a competition for young people to design stamps based on heroes of the pandemic. Children aged 4 to 14 were asked to nominate their heroes and produce a design for an official Royal Mail stamp. These designs celebrate a range of people, including NHS workers, parents and teachers. The Prince of Wales will select the final 8 designs very soon. You're right up to date. I'll be back in half an hour.
Welcome back. Now, it feels like Christmas has come early this year. Maybe it's because so many of us have decked the halls already.
Celebrities such as Holly Willoughby, Joan Collins and Abby Clancy have got their Christmas decorations up weeks in advance. Even Number 10's got their tree up early.
Advent, it doesn't officially start until tomorrow, but months of misery caused by the pandemic has fuelled a festive frenzy when it comes to getting those decorations up.
Someone who has seen the bumper demand for Christmas trees firsthand is Angela McPake, who sells something in the region of 7,000 of them every year. And she joins us now. Welcome, Angela.
I can see you're all wrapped up woolly warm. We've just brought you inside from the Christmas tree farm.
Absolutely, I am. I've literally come off the field and I'm going back when we finish talking.
So come on, tell us, are people coming too early this year? Were they early last year? They're wanting to have sort of some festive feeling.
Yeah, so last year it was really early. I think because we went into lockdown at the very beginning of November and coming to buy a Christmas tree was something you could still do. And it was largely outside. So we saw people coming in October to take trees. And we even had people saying, when we said they won't last, in your house, we even had people coming back and saying, it's okay, I'll buy a second tree nearer the time if necessary. So it's a little bit later this year, but we had trees leaving the site last week. We've got trees leaving the site today. That's still really early for a real tree, but people just want to get on with it. They want to do Christmas in a big way this year. And clearly we're not going to stop them. We just give them advice about how to look after it and hope it's going to be okay.
Angela, what is the best way to make your tree last a bit longer? Because for me, I want it up as early as possible. I'm going to just put out this now that my husband has messed up. I wanted my tree today so I could decorate it as a family tomorrow. It didn't happen. We'll have to wait till midweek next week, so I'm very cross with him. But what can we do if you do get a natural tree to make it last a little bit longer?
So he's right. So I'm getting that out there now. I wouldn't normally say that. It's rare those words will come out of my mouth, but, the longer the better. So I think the important thing is to buy from somewhere where it's fairly recently cut. When you buy, the person who sells it to you should be prepared to cut the end off it. So cut the end off the tree, a couple of inches, and then as soon as you get the tree home, pop it in a bucket of water outside. When you bring it into the house, put it in a stand that holds water, and then basically treat it as though it's a cut flower. So make sure you top the water up. We're very bad at that in this house and we really should know better. But keep your stand topped up with water and treat it as though it is, say, as a cut flower, not too close to a radiator, bearing in mind houses are really warm. So it's a challenge to make it go all the way through, but the best way is always a really fresh tree. Buy from somewhere where they can tell you when it was cut, and look after it, water it, as I say. imagine it's a rose that you want to last a month.
And then, whilst it might not be happy in Tonya's household, because the tree's a little bit late, it is a sort of a family thing to do, isn't it? So on your sort of Christmas tree farm, some people will choose the tree, pick which one they want, come back later, either have it still growing or cut it down. So, you know, it's fun for the family, yes?
Yeah, no, very much so. So when we first started growing trees, we literally just cut them for people and they'd come and take them away, and they didn't go down the field, whereas now lots of life is about an experience. So we get families coming in October who will come and pick their tree and put a tag on, and then come and pick it back up in December. And it is a real family thing, and we really love it because we're seeing in some cases a third generation of some families. And the children, always want to come back, and they remember bits of the process, and they remember we've got a train around the shop and all sorts of, they remember we've got animatronic reindeers. So all those things add to the experience. And a lot of today is all about the Instagram photograph. And we get loads of that. And it's really lovely to see. And we're really happy to be part of that. And selling Christmas trees is a really nice thing to do. You get happy customers.
You'll have seen fashions change over the year. So what's sort of in vogue now? What do you see?
So tree fashion's definitely changed. So when we started growing, it was all about Norway spruce, which is the traditional spiky tree. Now it's really all about firs. We still do everything else, but it's all about the fir, which is the sort of ones you see in American movies. And in this area, we get people have lots of trees. So you'll often have a tree inside, a tree outside. You might have a tree in a playroom. So we don't stop that. We're delighted if you have 3 trees. Couldn't be happier.
And getting rid of trees, how would you recommend that, especially in our area? We're in Cheshire.
So we're obviously, from a green point of view, it's quite important you don't just throw your tree away. So we have people who, burn it as firewood, but in this area and in lots of other areas around the country, there is a collection scheme that's run by the East Cheshire Hospice. And you book your tree in, you leave it outside on an agreed date, you give them a donation, it's a minimal donation, you can obviously give them more, and they will literally come, pick your tree up, take it away and shred it. And it's such a good way of making sure that the mulched bit of tree, if you like, goes back in the ground. It's a really nice circular green story.
See, she is our best of British. Best of British today.
Well
we
done.
all want to get our Christmas tree up. We now know how to keep it, and it's not all wilted.
Advice.
And fashion tips on how to get rid of it in a green, environmentally friendly way. Angela, we better let you go back outside, or your other family members will be thinking that you're ducking out of doing the hard work.
Thank you so much.
Really nice to speak to you.
Lovely, thank you. So let's have a look at through some of the stories that have caught our eyes in the papers today. And the big story for me was in, what was it in? It was in the Mirror, page 18, and it's about this Advent calendar. And the Advent calendar is worth £25,000. £25,000.
Paul, did you hear that from Tonya? Paul,
yes.
Did you hear that?
No, I wanted you to sing it, because in this Advent calendar, it's basically diamonds and jewels. And so this is what you get. And I'm going to sing it. Are you ready? So it's 11 pairs of diamond earrings, 7 diamond necklaces, 3 sets of diamond cufflinks, and 3 diamond rings. Oh, I'd like all of those. I really would like all of those.
Yes, but it doesn't come at a bargain price, and I also don't think they were doing it at discount on Black Friday.
No, that won't be £25,000. Can you imagine that for an Advent calendar? That's insane. And also, I have a bit of a thing about Advent calendars anyway. I'm not sure about them. I'm not sure if they're a good thing. The ones I used to get as a child...
you shocked me. Do you see my face turned? I think it fell. I love Advent calendars.
Yeah, but when I was a child, we had the ones with the pictures. Just the pictures, and so you'd look forward to getting the pictures. You wanted to get the lamb. Do you remember those days?
No, we like the little bits of chocolate.
Yeah, she just wants
and what happens usually is this, that you have a week's chocolate rather than a day, and everybody else is looking for the chocolate, but they've more or less all gone. I do try and keep the big prize one. till the end.
Christmas Eve or whatever it is, yeah. So what else has caught our eye today? So one of the ones that we got was in the Daily Mail, and we were both talking about this one. It's page 3 of the Daily Mail, and there is a trolley handle that will make you spend 25% more money in the supermarket. So it says, you see the one with the straight bar? You use your triceps when you're pushing that one, and so it makes you push things away. But the one with this sidebars, you're using your bicep, and for some reason the studies have shown that it makes you spend 25% more. I don't want that trolley. I tell you, all my money goes onto food. So if I got that one, it would be a disaster.
I would have thought to get another 25%, they might have wanted a bigger trolley. Usually most people are stopped from buying any more just because they can't put any more into the trolley. I'm not sure. I'm just wondering who came up with the idea to do that? Who did the research in that? Who did they get to go shopping to make sure that works? It never ceases to amaze me, this. But anyway, if you see that shopping trolley, don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Don't touch it.
Or put your hands somewhere else. I think it would ever put your hands somewhere else.
So there was another story in the Telegraph today. It was page 5, and it links up with two stories, actually. The Telegraph, page 5, and the Daily Mail, page 43. The one in the Telegraph said that men are more bedazzled by beautiful women than women are by men. So men are more likely to be conned by a beautiful woman than women are to be conned by a handsome man. But
yeah, we saw the other story.
We saw the other story of
which
that.
again, it's sort of a form of online fraud, a form of online scamming. I think this was page 43 in the Mail, and this was basically a rogue, a con man going out pretending he's some sort of businessman worth a few bob, international jet setter. And he's not conning, in this case, a woman out of £150,000. There he is, Tinder con man. There are lots of those about. All I would say, and it kind of makes sense, if somebody's telling you how rich they are, they've got cars, planes, motorbikes, everything, why then do they ask you for money? Surely alarm signals must go. If somebody is trying to sell themselves on how successful, why then do they want money from you? So the answer must be no. And
yes, and just be careful, because they're out there, and the thing is about them is they do come across as really genuine, and I know someone who this happened to, and they were so embarrassed by it. It took them a long time. It took them a long time to actually report it and do it, because they were so embarrassed about it.
You're spot on, and that's how these people get away with it, because other people think, I should have known better. I'm embarrassed with myself. I'm not even going to say lots of that, and I think it's deeply sad.
So a story that I love that's in the paper today, it's in the Daily Mirror, and it's page 28, and it says Elvis is still the top of the wedding first dances. You have all your Adeles and your Ed Sheerans and your Robbie Williams and all of that, but do you know who's still number one? Elvis is number one. And can I just say, and I'm proud to say this because it embarrasses him so much, that my son's middle name is Elvis. I'm chav enough to name him Elvis in the middle. I am an Elvis fan.
I'm an Elvis fan. I think most people are Elvis fans. He was good looking, he could sing, he did lots of films. Everybody's an Elvis fan.
So I do agree with that. So that's a lovely story today, because you would have thought that it would be Adele or Ed Sheeran or like the Robbie Williams and things like that. But there's a lot going on. What else is in the papers today?
Well, this one, page 23 of the Mail, it's John Humphrys on Saturday, and it's a 4-day work week to boost mental health. And he's saying that is just idiotic. He said everybody's now talking about mental health, Prince William, we should, speak more about our emotions. He said, but what they are really saying is, a 5-day week, what is that harmful? And then if you don't like a 4-day week, do you go down to a 3-day week? He said, I'm pretty lucky, guys. I've chosen sort of my hours. I have sort of quite eccentric work patterns as a freelancer, but that comes with its own pressures. You don't know if you've got them in 6 months' time. But look, other people like that routine. We know I'm getting paid at the end of the week, a 5-day, but you've got to work with your boss, you've got to work with your industry, you've got to make sure, it's value for money. He said this is a nonsense now where we're going with mental health. Yes, there are issues, yes, they do, but it's not everybody everywhere not being able to do a full week's work.
I completely agree with that. It's ridiculous. Another story that caught my eye is in the Daily Mail on page 9, and it says that if you want to have true love, and in particular women of couples of a certain age, like our age, the key is to have a joint bank account. You're less likely to get divorced if you've got a joint bank account. Now, they were very fashionable in the 70s, maybe when women weren't going out as much to work. They're less fashionable now, and it's one of the things that people argue about most. It's what causes money is what causes most divorces, and that's even before sex, children and the in-laws.
I guess there's two things. If people are coming together later in life, they've already got their own life, their own jobs, their own income. So I can see that. And then people might say, I know you shouldn't be going into your wedding thinking about separating and are we separating fairly and am I getting what I should be getting and you getting what you should be getting. But isn't that interesting that they thought two separate bank accounts could keep them together and stop the arguments, but no. Actually it's sort of showing, what's it showing? You don't trust one another, you're not prepared to share things, so maybe it does say something. Or maybe you should have a shared one and your own one on the side.
That's a good one. I mean, I think, mine started out right. I've got a joint one with my husband. I've also got my own that my stuff goes into. But anyway, one of the other things that's a real bugbear for me, and it is a bugbear for me, and it actually also might tap into how angry we're getting, is that I don't like these motorised scooters. I really don't like them. They make me really angry, but I'm not without reason to get angry because it says that there's 540% increase in 999 calls outs because of these scooters, and they're like triggers for me. They make me cross. I don't know whether it's because I've spent so much time in lockdown thinking that everything makes me quite cross now, and whether I get more cross with that. But I think they are quite dangerous.
I think, they can be on the sides. The pavement as well as the roads. They're also quiet. They're also very fast. You're not expecting to see them, and you're not expecting to see them right on you. There's so much happening around about, isn't it? Roads have changed. You've got, roads sort of cornered off. You've got cyclists. There's lots going on. You're quite right. It is adding to everybody's anger. I had a couple more comments here. If you've got one there. I've got David, because obviously you've all been emailing us various comments on various subjects, from Stella Creasy and taking a baby into the chamber to Black Friday. David says, I wouldn't say I'd overspent. I bought a new TV with money I'd saved, but today I woke up and found a huge hole in the roof, so the TV will have to go back so I can use the money to go towards the roof being repaired.
I'm sorry, dear.
Well, he's very pragmatic and practical, isn't he? If I can't afford it, it was a luxury, it was an addition, actually I need to sort out the roof. Are you sure you couldn't have the two, David?
Pam says, does Stella Creasy know that there is a creche at the House of Parliament? Most working women don't have that luxury. Also, why does this MP have a GoFundMe page? Why does she have a GoFundMe page? I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know. We better check that out. Pam, we'll check that out, see what that is. And Hilary says, I'm astounded that it seems so many people still believe sale or special offers were anything other than marketing lies. See, Hilary on the button there. She, knows what's going on. Now, coming up, we'll be looking at the top sports stories of the day with the help of Aidan McGee. First, though, here's the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Storm Arwen continues to cause some problems, although the storm will be clearing as we go through the day. But bitterly cold out there, some snow in places, as well as the very strong winds. The storm system out in the North Sea, but look at the number of isobars across the country. It is very windy, and those winds coming down from the north, bringing the chill and also bringing the wintry weather. So, as I said, some snow in places across parts of England, especially central and eastern parts, a mixture of rain, sleet and snow, and still those winds giving some problems through the course of the day, only slowly easing. So we do still have warnings in place. See the Met Office website or the Met Office app for details of those warnings. Many western areas having a bright, fine, sunny day, but everywhere, whether you've got the showers in the east or the sunshine in the west, it's cold. 3, 4, 5 Celsius, add on that wind, and it really, really does feel bitter. Continued threat of icy conditions through this evening as the showers keep going across eastern England. Still a mixture here of rain, sleet and snow. Snow mostly over the hills, but there could be a covering at low levels for a time. Certainly snow showers in northern Scotland. So here also potentially icy as temperatures drop widely down below freezing in towns and cities. Many rural areas well below freezing, especially where we've got snow lying on the ground. So a very cold start to Sunday with a widespread hard frost. Through the day, again, many places dry, fine and sunny, but still some showers across East Anglia, up towards North Yorkshire and northern Scotland, where we will continue to see sleet and snow. Rain showers for parts of Pembrokeshire and Cornwall. And again, many places dry and bright on Sunday with plenty of sunshine. Still cold, but the winds will be a little lighter tomorrow, so it won't feel quite so bitter. So the storm system is clearing away, but still causing problems. There are still warnings in force. See the Met Office website or app for details of those weather warnings.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for the Political Correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinion. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is the Political Correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
Welcome back. As always, it's a big weekend of sport. The first Premier League game of the weekend is in North London, where Arsenal welcome Newcastle to the Emirates. Aidan McGee, sports writer and broadcaster, is with us now. So, Aidan, this is a huge game for new Newcastle boss Eddie Howe.
Yeah, not least, Esther, because he was due to have his big moment in front of his own crowd last week, and he wasn't able to do it because he contracted COVID. Now, his assistant, Jason Tyndall, gave a press conference yesterday and said, look, I had COVID myself, and I actually got worse after 9 or 10 days. Eddie, in contrast, is feeling much better. He's feeling much perkier as the week's gone on. He's going to be in the dugout today against Arsenal. Newcastle haven't won a game all season. They're in a desperate situation. They can't sign any players until January, so about 6 or 7 games before that can happen. They're in a really, really serious position. Added to that, and we mentioned it to Tonya just offset a minute ago, she said to me, are Arsenal going to win this game? And I said, well, there's a reasonably good chance of that. They've won 17 of their last 18 games against Newcastle.
Can I just interfere there? The reason I'm asking you is because if Arsenal win, I'll phone my dad in Cyprus who we're watching. I can tap him for money. He'll be in a good mood. He'll say yes to everything. So that's good to know.
No, exactly. But no, huge game for Newcastle. It's going to. They had a 3-3 draw last week. Eddie wasn't there. He was communicating with the players beforehand, I think, on FaceTime or Zoom or whatever it is they do in football these days. And so it wasn't ideal. He'd be in the dugout today. That's a different thing, but they've got their work cut out.
They certainly have got their work cut out, haven't they?
They have indeed.
And then what's going on now with Manchester United?
Yeah, another interesting one because, managerial appointments don't seem to be straightforward these days. They wanted an interim appointment until the end of the season. So this is a guy called Ralf Rangnick. He's not a young man. He's 63. He has an excellent track record in Germany. He's currently with a club called Lokomotiv Moscow in Russia. Man United have negotiated a deal to take him away from his position there. They're going to have him in charge until the end of the season. He's not going to take over against Chelsea tomorrow. Michael Carrick will continue in that particular role, but that'll be his last game. The crucial thing here is always the fixtures, though. Yes, they've got Arsenal at home in what will be Rangnick's first game, but after that, they've got a load of teams in the bottom 8 of the division. They want to make sure that the manager has a reasonable chance of establishing some credibility, getting some results under his belt before he goes on and establishes credibility with those supporters.
That's the thing now with managers. I mean, they don't seem to stay in the way that they used to stay when I was growing up. It seems to be they're just this quick. Do they get a chance to establish themselves before they're booted out again?
I think the average tenure now is under a year, which is astonishing. However, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer cannot claim that he didn't have enough time. He had nearly 3 years. For a top club, that is an extremely long time these days. He had £400 million to spend. It wasn't a disastrous job, but it became toxic towards the end, his situation with the players, Cristiano Ronaldo apparently running the dressing room, and therefore it needed a different change. It needed somebody to be more strategic. Now, Ralf Rangnick's trophy haul is not overly impressive, but he does have a good record of rebuilding and building clubs from the bottom, and that is exactly what Manchester United need right now.
Yeah, because it'd been a bad run for them, wasn't it?
Oh, it was absolutely terrible. I mean, 4 of the last 5 games have been lost. That hasn't happened at United for many a long year.
And big losses. I'm a Liverpool fan.
Yeah,
big loss.
4-1 away to 4-1 away to Watford, 5-0 at home to Liverpool.
We knew it was coming. This change was coming, wasn't it?
Well, it took about 30 years for United to not be good anymore. But Liverpool capitalised on that, of course. But yeah, we knew the change was coming. I think that this season it was very difficult for them. It was a completely horrendous start. However, they are doing pretty well in the Champions League. Maybe they'll copy the example of Chelsea last season. They brought in a German manager when the club was failing in January. 5 months later, what do? They go and lift the Champions League. Could happen for Man United this season. They're still in the competition.
And any other big games that we should be looking at this weekend?
It's not a particularly great schedule, to be honest. It's probably more interested in the Championship. You've got a real hot race going on in the top 3 or 4. My own Queen's Park Rangers playing on Monday night against Wayne Rooney's Derby. If we win, we could go 3rd in the table. So we look forward to that happening, but I don't think it will.
Well, look, thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Absolutely back with us. But now it's time for the news with Bethany.
Good morning, these are your latest headlines. COVID vaccines are being altered amid concerns the new variant Omicron could be resistant. Germany is the second country in Europe to confirm their first suspected case. Overnight, the US joined a growing list of countries imposing restrictions on travel from South Africa, where the variant was first detected. There are also cases in Hong Kong, Israel and Belgium. 2 men have died after being struck by trees as Storm Arwen brought 100-mile-an-hour winds overnight. 1 man was killed in County Antrim yesterday, while a second died in Cumbria last night. Amber and yellow weather warnings remain in place across the country, and the Met Office are advising people to only travel if absolutely necessary. Former England cricket captain Michael Vaughan has said he's sorry for the hurt his former teammate Azim Rafiq has experienced. Earlier this month, Rafiq described his treatment at Yorkshire as inhumane and racist. Vaughan was among a number of figures implicated in the case, but he denies the claims. And tributes have poured in for the American composer and songwriter Stephen Sondheim, who's died aged 91. Known for musicals including Sweeney Todd and West Side Story, he was described by Sir Tim Rice as a musical masterman. And Andrew Lloyd Webber added he was the musical theatre giant. I'll have more on all of today's main stories at the top of the hour.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back. Now, there was some good news this week as the government backed a campaign by the widow of PC, Andrew Harper, who was killed in the line of duty back in 2019.
Harper was chasing some burglars when he was hit and then dragged away by the getaway car. His killers were convicted of manslaughter.
Now, this new law will see mandatory life sentences for anyone who kills an emergency worker whilst they are committing a crime.
Joining us to talk through the implications of this new law is Kieran Mullan, and he's a Conservative MP for Crewe and Nantwich.
Morning, Kieran.
Good morning.
So, do you want to tell us why you got involved and what's happened with this law?
Well, I come from a policing family, so my father was a policeman and my sister is a police officer, and I actually spent a few years volunteering as a policeman myself. So in Parliament all the time, I try and do my best to speak up for the police officers and the amazing work they do for us. And I think, like everybody, I was really upset by what happened with PC Harper. And then when I saw that his widow Lissy was running this campaign, it was one that I really wanted to get involved with. So myself and another MP, Matt Vickers, the MP for Stockton South, we've been helping her over the past 12 months to move the campaign forward. Police officers do so much for us, and other emergency service workers. This isn't just for police officers, that we should be doing everything we can do to repay that and protect them.
And it wasn't a horrendous death that he suffered. There he is, called out to go to a burglary, don't really know what's going to happen, and then to end in such a horrendous way. Newly married, as you say, you've been working with Lizzie, his wife. And how's it been with her, you working with her living through this pain for another couple of years? How she coped, how she helped you?
Well, she's phenomenal, and the campaign, you know, as MPs we've helped her, but it's her campaign and it's her success almost entirely. And when I've taken her to meet with MPs, we arranged for her to meet lots of different MPs to garner support. Just a consummate professional. Very, very difficult, as you can imagine, to talk to people about something so personal to her, but she was able to do it repeatedly. And I'm sure that what I've said to her is that it must be a strange experience, because on the one hand, she's doing something positive and achieved something positive now, but of course it comes from a tragedy for her that nothing she can achieve will undo. So I think she's incredibly brave to campaign in this way and try and turn something into a positive, and it must be a surreal experience for her.
I mean, Kieran, it must be, like you said, a completely surreal experience to her. Some people have been saying that maybe intent should be taken into the sentence they're given. So, you know, everybody getting a life sentence, whether they intended to kill the person or not, Do you feel that's heavy-handed, or do you think it's the right thing to happen?
It looks like we
might
might
lost
have
him.
missed
What
him.
do you think of that, Esther? Because the thing is, I completely agree. You know, anybody that kills a frontline worker, policeman, anyone that's to do with that, they should be severely punished, and maybe there should be minimum sentence. But those that go into intentionally murdering someone to get a life sentence, but when they didn't mean to kill him. I mean, they did, and it was horrific. But do you think it should automatically be a life sentence? Should intent come into play or not?
Well, this was what the whole campaign was about. This is what it's gone on for so long. It won't be retrospective. But let's remember what happened. Here are people, police people, frontline workers, emergency workers, going to a crime. He got called out for a burglary, and then we saw what happened. These three lads then carried on driving with him on the back of the car. And I think it was the lack of remorse that they showed, lack of sensitivities for what had gone on, and they did get sentenced. But in this case, it was how do you make sure we protect our police? And I'm certainly for that, because they are putting their life on the line every day. We've got Kieran back with us, and what I will ask him, what difference do you think this new law will make? Because we were having a little discussion there whilst you weren't here about this. Usually you have the mens rea for a full life sentence for murder and not manslaughter. So maybe if you can explain a little bit about what you were campaigning, what went on there, and what difference it'll make.
I think the really important thing is that police officers are going up against people that are going to sometimes be violent with them and use force against them. And we ask police officers to put themselves in harm's way in that regard. And actually, some of these people are very hardened criminals and think very carefully about what they're willing to do when it comes to dealing with the police. And what I want is that, you know, the next time some police maybe raid a drug dealer's house, that those drug dealers think twice about resisting the police, assaulting the police, fighting with the police, because actually our police are subject to assaults and the emergency service workers all the time. And what we're saying to them is think very carefully, because if that turns out perhaps in a way you didn't expect, you want to do them harm, if they end up losing their life, you will pay a very heavy price for that. And I think that's the right thing to do for our emergency service workers. As we've said, a big focus on police, but not just for that.
And as you say, this anger in society, the way people are treating people, it's not just police. We know we're shocked with ambulance drivers. There they are going to a scene to help people, and they're not. They're being the victims of crime themselves.
So this is giving a very strong message, isn't it? It's giving a very strong message to people that do anything to frontline workers now.
Yeah, exactly. And for another group that we often don't talk about, kind of the forgotten emergency services, I think sometimes are prison officers. You know, these people, again, are dealing with violent people all the time, people that do have a proclivity to be violent. And it's, again, making it very clear to all of those people that we will do everything we can to get justice for anybody that if they end up being killed as a result.
So do you think this will help with prevention? That's what we're saying. We don't want you to do it, and we don't want you to say you never thought about it, you didn't have the mens rea. We're saying we want you to think about it, and we're looking at prevention.
Absolutely. Looking at prevention, of course, everybody knows there are some things happen in the spur of the moment and that won't apply to that. Not everybody thinks these things through, but some of them do. And then again, the other side is justice. And that's what Listy was very passionate about. If it does happen, if your loved one loses their life in the line of duty, this gives you justice. And don't get me wrong, there are other ways in which I think our justice system could do better in delivering justice. I think even with the big improvements this government's made, there's further to go. On this occasion, I think we've made a great commitment to a change that is going to mean that if you do have a family member who loses their life in the line of duty, you won't walk away feeling like justice hasn't been done, and that's really important to me.
Did you or Lizzie or Matt Vickers, did you look at the ever escalation of violence against our emergency workers? Did you see how it had changed over the passage of time? Is this why really this law is really of its time?
I mean, we saw over lockdown a lot of public concern about that. And I think it's probably, people would be surprised to know there are thousands of assaults every year on emergency service workers. And each one of those assaults could turn into a manslaughter. And that's the important thing to think about. Many people are familiar with the idea of the single punch. If you punch someone and it goes wrong, you can kill them. And so it's that sense of intimidation and harassment that's now bleeding to even more assaults that I was very mindful of. safe to say that, thankfully, doesn't very often end up that an emergency service worker is killed, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have the systems in place and the legal system to address that with the severity that it deserves.
Kieran Mullen, I want to thank you very much indeed. Sometimes people say, what do MPs do? How do they serve the public? What do they bring forward? And here is, a local MP, a backbencher who's brought forward this transformational law that is really of its time. Kieran, thanks for joining us this morning.
I think it's really important what was said there, that this is going to be preventative. And that's why it's such a heavy sentence. Whatever happens, so before you think about punching or hurting someone that's on the front line, you're going to think, hang on a minute, if this goes wrong, I could get a life sentence. And I think that's a good message to send out.
And that's why, violence against these people, these police officers, these, prison wardens, these ambulance drivers, has gone through the roof. It's been increasing and year on year. So you've got to say, well, what do we do? Because who'll want to do that job? Who'll want to put their life on the line if they know their life is they could go to work one day and, as Lizzie Harper found out, didn't come home. So right law, right time. And thank goodness for those backbenchers pushing it through with Lizzie Harper there. But can you believe it? It's nearly 10 years since we've lost Amy Winehouse. I know you like her, don't you, Amy Winehouse?
I'm a massive fan. Well, there's a wonderful new exhibition at the Design Museum in London showcasing Amy's music and fashion. Well, joining us now is our showbiz correspondent, Selina Cherry. Selina, Amy's story is such a tragic one, isn't it?
Good morning, ladies. Yes, it is. And she's such a talent. Her music, her voice, absolutely amazing. It's brilliant to have this exhibition at the Jewish Museum for her. You can see all her personal belongings. You can see bags that she's owned. You can see personal photos. It's going to be brilliant. A lovely tribute to her, definitely.
So Amy was a young star. So and there is a lot of things that happen to you when you're young and you're kind of catapulted to fame, as you were in the Honeys when you were young. Well, how do you think this changed you having that experience?
I think for me, I was really lucky because I was in it from the age of 4 and my parents were really supportive and they guided me in the correct way. I think it's really important to have good people around you to guide you and tell you this is good, this is the good bits, these are the bad bits, and you should stay away from this and stay away from that. Amy didn't have that. And instead, the more famous she became, the more people she had around her that weren't good for her, even her own father.
Absolutely. So that's the thing where we looked back at Britney's conservatorship, for example, where that went on too long and that was quite sinister, I think, her one. But maybe if someone like Amy had somebody else, not her father, doing conservatorship for her, she might still be alive now if she had a little bit more care taken. Do you think we should be looking after our younger stars more?
I think we do, because it's difficult to know what you're getting into. The music industry is such a crazy place. You don't know until you're in it. And the things that you come across, the things that you're offered along the way, you have to be a really strong person to say no to this. And if you're not, you need someone around you to say, you can't do this, you must stop doing this. This is your life you're messing with. It's not fun. All these people around you are only around you because you're famous and they want to be seen, and that's it. And unfortunately, people like Amy didn't have that. And, you're right. Maybe if she had someone doing what happened to Britney to her, she might still be alive now.
Can I ask, what is this sort of exhibition, all about? I mean, will it protect new stars coming forward? Does it glamorise a raucous sort of drug-fueled life? Or what is it about? What will people take from it?
I think what they're trying to do is get away all the negative press about Amy and look at her as a person and her life and the amazing career she had and where she came from. So you're seeing things there like her old ballet shoes and bags that she used and old dresses that she used to perform in. And it's just to celebrate not her demise, but what the good things about Amy were. And I think if you're an Amy fan, you'll absolutely love it.
It's very much for the fans, isn't it? And
yes,
Selina, were you on the red carpet this week? Tell us a little bit more about it.
Oh, darling, I was on the red carpet this week, and I had an amazing evening, I have to say. I met Idris Elba, and it was very, very lovely. And he's just produced a film called Odysseus, which is starring Michael Sosha. I have to say, I was left with my mouth open after watching this. It's a 20-minute film. It is out of this world, blowing. I go to a lot of these little screenings, but I have to say this was absolutely incredible. And of course, I had to tell Idris afterwards how wonderful it was. You know, we have to do that, ladies, don't we?
Yeah, did you swoon? Did you swoon?
Of course. Someone says to me, "Did you get his number?" I'm like, "No, he's married." Why is he married?
You might have tried. You didn't get it on this occasion.
No, I did
and
try.
go on, the other story people are talking about is, I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. Richard Madeley's already managed to get out of here.
I'm a sick celebrity, is what I like to call it this week, because everybody's ill. Richard's gone, and rumour has it there are 3 others that have needed medical attention this week. And yesterday they didn't go live because of the storm. But I'm wondering if they didn't go live because everybody's sick.
Everybody's got out of there, is that what it is? They're going to have to cut it short. What are they going sick with? Does anybody know?
I don't know. No one's saying. I don't think it's COVID because they would have all been tested for that before they went in. But I think it's freezing cold there.
Yeah,
and I
they're
know
fed
what
up.
I'm like in the cold. Yeah, they're fed up. There's a lot of older people in there, and it's freezing cold.
Don't be
They're sleeping on the
ageist.
floor
Let me
this
tell you,
year.
some of the younger ones are the more whingy, whiny. Okay, us old birds, we'd be fine.
But
there.
I think, you know, you're spot on there, Selena. I think, you know, the weather, it is cold, not what we expected. You know, it's great to go to Australia or wherever they were going all in the sun. I think some of the other things, I would never go on that show. The food and whatever they're consuming and some of these trials now, maybe they've gone over the top.
You don't know what they're eating. They're eating animals' noses. I mean, that's disgusting. You know, they're sleeping on the floor. Who would sleep on a cold floor? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And
obviously, the other story that's got people going over the week are those Madonna's photos. I mean, you can't unsee them, can you? It's rather unfortunate if you happen to manage to see them by mistake. What is going on there, Selena?
I don't know. You tell me what is going on there. I mean, I have to say, I saw them and I kind of went silent, and it's not like me to go silent. I think Madonna is amazing. I think she's fantastic. I love her as an artist. She's one of my idols. But...
No, I know. I mean, part of me... So I had 2 feelings when I saw that. She's 10 years older than me, so she's 63, isn't she? And she's prancing around.
So you go, yeah, she looks good.
I mean, yeah, she's in fishnet tights. I mean, she gets away with things that people couldn't do. But you want to say, why did you do that? I mean, the first thought that came when we were talking about my family table is that my kids went, oh, my gosh, she must despise her children, her poor kids. Because I said, well, I might do that, get on my... You know, and they were like, oh, my gosh, it's mortifying for them. Do you think she has any thought about what she's doing to her family? Or do you think she just wants the attention so much she doesn't care?
I think Madonna wants the attention. I mean, my daughter, I make her cringe now, and I don't do anything to make her cringe. She's 13. I just make her cringe. So can you imagine if I did that? She would be mortified. So I don't think Madonna thinks about that. I think she loves attention. She's always got so much attention. And she was just sitting at home thinking, what can I do today? I think I'll put some fishnet tights on and go under a bed and take some
she
photos.
did do that sex book years and years ago, didn't she? Which was shocking, with her and various other people with no clothes on. The only thing that I couldn't quite get, that it was her face. It was her face to me that had changed significantly. I know there was all the shots were sort of fudged and smudged, weren't they, for the bits that she was revealing? But what has she done to her face?
She's obviously had some work done. I mean, I don't want to say what she's had done because I can't for a fact, but it looks like a bit of Botox. It looks like she's had a bit of a lip here. And I even think she's got bum implants.
Yeah, well, possibly. I don't know. She's always trained really hard, and so I think it's more likely she's had the fat sucked out from somewhere and shoved in there. I mean, that's more likely what it would be.
Well, I didn't recognise her. That's what I was saying. I genuinely did not recognise her at all, and I could see that there was a body, but I did think she'd photoshopped another face on her. But anyway, it's given us something to talk about. Maybe that she was hoping about. I think there was some cool comment.
For a 60-something-year-old, she looks amazing. You know, it did shock me. I'm not going to lie. No wonder Instagram took the pictures down. I don't blame them. They're worse than nipples. But you know, you've got to give her a little clap, really.
Anyway, Selina, thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing from you next week again. Bye-bye.
But we said there were some cruel comments, weren't there? The shot with her just legs coming out under the bed. It's like, what, is she looking for her false teeth under the bed?
No, there was literally swipe pictures where they had Granny going, where's my glasses, where's my glasses? And then there she is. I mean, it was just hilarious, absolutely hilarious.
So we've got your comments now. Time here for some texts and some emails that have come through. I've got Roger says, no babies, it's not a creche, it's a workplace. Can female bus drivers take their children into work? So this is again the story about Stella Creasy, an MP who wants to take her baby strapped to her into the main chamber in the House of Commons.
Just to go back one more, Lee says, because about the story that we were talking about earlier, Lee says, how on earth did Britain become great when the slightest weather disruption causes trains to be cancelled, roads to be closed and sports cancelled? It's not even a proper winter yet. How do Scandinavians and Icelandic places live any life at all? So it's true, it is true. I know it's a bit windy out there now and people are going crazy, aren't they?
OK. Lucia says, hi, loving the show. What really hacked me off is when you see 50% off sales. There is in tiny letters up to, and in my experience, I've never seen any of the items are half price in these sales. Really makes me mad. I know exactly what you mean. You rush over thinking you're getting a bargain and it's not. It's a couple of quid off, not that 50%, Lucia there.
And going back to the childcare, it says, no, your job is to look after and improve lives of your constituents. Everything you miss or don't get done because your focus on a child affects people's lives. It's not fair on anyone. If you've enough time to focus on a baby at work, you're not working hard enough. Oh.
Well, look,
this
is what people are saying. They're going, look, you've got to understand, what does everybody else do in society? As Roger said there, you know, you can't be a bus driver and have your child with you. And Susanna says, no, simple as this, no other job I'm aware of allows you to do this. Use your salary and use childcare like the rest of society.
So, you know, I think, on the whole, people are saying that they don't think that the child should be in the chamber.
Yeah.
That seems to be the views so far.
They say you've got a creche, you've got something else, therefore use that. Don't bother there. Carol says, if every parent took the kids into work, it'd be pandemonium. There's a creche for MPs and for young people, therefore use that. Thank you for all your comments. But that's it. That's all we've got time for today on Saturday. We'll be back next week from 10 a.m. But coming up next on GB News is Alistair Stewart and his friends. First, though, the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Storm Arwen continues to cause some problems, although the storm will be clearing as we go through the day. But bitterly cold out there, some snow in places, as well as the very strong winds. The storm system out in the North Sea, but look at the number of isobars across the country. It is very windy, and those winds coming down from the north, bringing the chill and also bringing the wintry weather. So, as I said, some snow in places across parts of England, especially central and eastern parts, a mixture of rain, sleet and snow, and still those winds giving some problems through the course of the day, only slowly easing. So we do still have warnings in place. See the Met Office website or the Met Office app for details of those warnings. Many western areas having a bright, fine, sunny day, but everywhere, whether you've got the showers in the east or the sunshine in the west, it's cold. 3, 4, 5 Celsius, add on that wind, and it really, really does feel bitter. Continued threat of icy conditions through this evening as the showers keep going across eastern England. Still a mixture here of rain, sleet and snow. Snow mostly over the hills, but there could be a covering at low levels for a time. Certainly snow showers in northern Scotland. So here also potentially icy as temperatures drop widely down below freezing in towns and cities. Many rural areas well below freezing, especially where we've got snow lying on the ground. So a very cold start to Sunday with a widespread hard frost. Through the day, again, many places dry, fine and sunny, but still some showers across East Anglia up towards North Yorkshire and northern Scotland, where we will continue to see sleet and snow. Rain showers for parts of Pembrokeshire and Cornwall. And again, many, many places dry and bright on Sunday with plenty of sunshine. Still cold, but the winds will be a little lighter tomorrow, so it won't feel quite so bitter. So the storm system is clearing away, but still causing problems. There are still warnings in force. See the Met Office website or app for details of those weather warnings.
Canary Islands, answers the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want